No official antitrust probes happening, just the DOJ and the FTC dividing up responsibility for potential antitrust probes should they happen. But investors did not take this lightly. What does it mean for the markets?
Emily, I think what it means is that these companies are potentially going to have to adjust their business models. But what's important for these companies and really the societies that these companies operate in is to bring a level of transparency to everything. So if we think about their platforms, they need to demonstrate that people or other companies that might participate in the platform are able to do so in a fair way. I think the other piece of this is around user data. And so the companies need to do a better job explaining to their users how the data is being used and obviously the business models of these companies which make money off of that data. I think if we step back, though, this is a necessary part of how these companies need to evolve over the next few years. We do see opportunities in these names like Alphabet, like Facebook. We also see opportunities in Apple and Amazon. And so each of these companies has different complexities, different challenges, but ultimately we see good growth opportunities for them over the next few years.
We've been talking to guests throughout the day on Bloomberg Television about this antitrust issue, these antitrust issues, and the threat of pending tech regulation. Take a listen to what some of these other voices had to say.
There is a growing recognition that kind of the wild, wild west days of the social media platform companies is coming to an end.
What we need to do is make certain that they are responsible to the Americans that are using their platform.
When you look at the big picture in the digital advertising space, the question I would pose is, would the FTC allow Chase or Goldman Sachs to own the NASDAQ? The answer to that would be absolutely not.
I am a big believer when you start regulating, a lot of bad things can happen.
Comments there from lawmakers and the president actually over the last several months, Dan. Do you think one particular company, that there's a better case for one particular company than the others of an aggressive antitrust investigation?
Emily, we'll have to see how the data that comes out, and we'll have to look at each one of these companies and the cases on their own merits. So, for example, if we look at Facebook, we need to see or get a little bit more insight into how core Facebook is operating versus Instagram versus some of the newer platforms like Messenger and WhatsApp. Within Google, we'll obviously need to get a little bit more insight in core search. There's the YouTube platform. So each of these companies have different businesses and there are different ramifications for each. So without getting further details, we're going to have to wait and really try and better understand how this is going to evolve. However, from an investment standpoint, this uncertainty and the risks associated with it are very much, or we think a big chunk of it is being captured in the price today, and obviously you saw the shares sell off. So if one were to take a longer term perspective, we think this presents opportunities for some of these companies.
Now, that's an interesting argument, and other experts have said today that perhaps a long-term antitrust investigation, not knowing what the results might be, could actually increase, let's say, Alphabet's value over the long term, or be better for Alphabet's market cap and valuation. Explain that argument to me.
It would really depend at its core if the company is able, in the case of Alphabet, to continue to innovate. So, for example, if the core search business, if they continue to innovate and drive value for users, that can still grow at very good outsized clips, if you will. YouTube, the asset, is continuing to see terrific growth. The Google Cloud platform, which is really aimed more at enterprise users beginning to shift more of their businesses to the cloud. When we speak to customers, that's in the very early stages. I think if the regulatory frameworks or the scrutiny comes onto the core search business, assuming Google in that case is able to manage through it, demonstrate that they're doing that they're fair and just in terms of people and companies using their platform, that can ultimately strengthen it over the medium to long term. But to be clear, there are of course going to be competitive risks. All of these companies face challenges every which way, and obviously we have to look beyond the U.S. market, where globally it remains a very intensive competitive landscape. And so if these companies are able to innovate while managing through these complexities and remedying or putting in place remedies that are appropriate, there is opportunity to create additional value in our view. But at the end of the day, if their business practices get severely impaired, you would see the revenue growth rates potentially slow. Larger investments could pressure margins. But I think that latter case is what the market is busy pricing and grappling with right now. And when we look at the innovation piece of the equation, we still see a lot that we like.
Now, we've heard some of the executives of these companies say, we welcome regulation. Mark Zuckerberg has said, I welcome regulation, the right regulation. And I wonder if there is an argument to be made that some sort of regulation, some sort of rules of the road in terms of how these companies operate could be good for these companies, because many of the problems that they have run into is a result of the sort of lack of transparency, the confusion of, let's say, misinformation, the content that stays up. In the case of Facebook, the content that comes down. Could some sort of rules actually create some clarity or certainty among these companies?
I think some regulatory or a framework can begin to help bring a little bit of clarity. However, though, these markets, these companies, these technologies are changing very, very quickly. And so the framework needs to be a living, breathing organism, and it might be different in different countries. And so we need to do more to bring a little bit of oversight. But if we look at other industries, such as healthcare as an example, utilities, financial services, there are a lot of other industries that are, of course, being regulated, which ultimately is, I think, for the participants beneficial. Technology has a lot of the same elements in that what these companies are bringing, products and services to customers globally, are really adding a lot of value. But I think if we add, or when we add more and more rules, these rules need to adapt as these technology environments change. That really is key to this. There is no silver bullet, in my view. We really need to take a thoughtful approach and be willing to change as the facts or the technologies evolve.